that I made a poll on my Instagram story. About 1,300 people saw it, and we had 45%, so almost half of people thought that testosterone improved. All right, guys, so today we are going to talk about how TRT and exogenous testosterone affects fertility. I was very surprised recently to find that I made a poll on my Instagram story. About 1,300 people saw it, and we had 45%, so almost half of people thought that testosterone improved fertility. Now, the reason I mentioned this was because I saw in one study about 25% of urologists were saying that they thought it improved fertility, which is really shocking because a urologist and an endocrinologist should know these things, right? Of course. I mean, really, all doctors should know this, but especially those two. So for 20 to 25% of urologists to be saying that and thought that prescribing it would improve fertility is really shocking. I actually had one friend who recently graduated from med school a year or two ago say, well, I'm not so sure because I think it affects testosterone levels and libido, but it doesn't affect sperm. And I was like, are you serious? Like, and again, I mean, as an MD, you should know these things. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to have a full background in endocrinology, but you should know basic things like this, especially because GPs, so general practitioners, prescribe more testosterone or TRT than almost any other specialty. They're pretty much second to endocrinologists. So this is obviously something they should know. I have another friend who's in med school now who said, well, it's really nuanced because, and actually all I said was it's really nuanced, which really just told me that they have no idea because it's not that nuanced. It's hardly more nuanced than saying that women taking birth control will lower their fertility. It's like, well, maybe there's some exceptions. There's some things that could happen, or a guy who gets a vasectomy, it's not always going to work. There's nuance in that sense, but for the most part, no. Testosterone, if you take TRT, will lower your fertility. It was tested as a male birth control, and many men become completely infertile on it. So this is something that you need to know if you are considering, obviously, taking anabolic steroids, but even if you're just considering TRT, this is one of the major side effects for men. If you're 18 to 30, 35, and you're considering having kids down the road, this is something you absolutely need to be aware of. So your body produces gonadotropin releasing hormone, as you would think. That causes the release of gonadotropin. So that would be LH, luteinizing hormone, and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. So in a normal person, that is being produced, unless you have hypogonadotropic hypogonadism, right, where you are not producing the gonadotropins. So those will go to act on the testicles, with LH mostly interacting with the Leydig cells, FSH on the Sertoli cells. That will cause testosterone and sperm production, respectively. And that is how it will work in a normal male who is not taking testosterone. But when you are taking testosterone, you are going to cause a negative feedback loop, mostly through estrogen, but there is also a negative feedback through testosterone as well. But it's largely through estrogen, and then you are going to stop producing those gonadotropins. And what happens is then you are no longer producing testosterone naturally, so they kind of just shut down, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you can never get it back, but, and I'll try to include a study here, for people who take testosterone, for the large majority of them, they see a decrease in sperm count, right? Even if they're not azoospermic, a lot of them will be oligospermic, and at the very least, you will have a reduction in sperm count. And troublingly, what happens is when you come off, depending on how long, and you can look at charts that will show, okay, length of time on and how old they are. Obviously, the older you are and the longer you've been on testosterone replacement therapy, the more you're going to have issues with fertility down the road. But it doesn't mean you can't get it back, but it's important to know that just because you can get testosterone back does not necessarily mean that you're going to get sperm production back in the same timeline, okay? So when let's say you come off your TRT because you want to have kids, and you don't necessarily have to come off TRT to have kids, okay? If you take HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, or exogenous FSH. They used to use HMG more, but now it's more standard to use FSH. If you use these, even if you're on testosterone, you can get things kickstarted again. So I'm not trying to say that there's no hope, but it's something that you need to be aware of. It is a big deal, and it's something to be aware of. So you can actually, for a lot of people, stay on their testosterone replacement therapy. Other doctors will say, no, you should just come off everything while we do this. There are other things you can implement, like some people will use SERMs, selective estrogen receptor modulators, like Clomid or Nolvadex, and those will actually stimulate at the pituitary to release those gonadotropins. So that will take maybe a little bit longer because now you're really trying to restart things totally, versus if you take something like exogenous FSH or HCG, those will stimulate the testicles directly. But the point is, you can do this, but you are more likely to see testosterone come back before sperm production. So you might come off, and within a few months, you're producing testosterone normally. And I'll post a study where they showed that even months and months later, people who came off TRT did not get normal sperm counts back. Again, some people were azoospermic, some people just had lower counts, but it's not like, hey, I'm just gonna come off and then it's gonna be all fine. It can take a while. Now, this video is not meant to be an entire comprehensive video on all of the different things to do for fertility treatments or other ways that it could be affected by hormones, but I just really wanted to, the poll really surprised me because I didn't think that this many people would have had that misconception, especially because I can see who answered in a certain way. And I know for a fact that a lot of these people who answered incorrectly are coaches, and some are even enhanced coaches who give people advice on how to be enhanced. So can you imagine you sign up, especially if you're a younger guy, you sign up for a coach who is enhanced and they are giving you advice on how to be enhanced and they don't even know this basic consequence to doing so? I mean, that is crazy and shocking to me, but it absolutely exists. So if you're somebody who is maybe a little bit older and considering testosterone replacement therapy, or you're younger or older and you're considering using anabolics, generally speaking, I'm not a fan of people using anabolics for a lot of the potential health causes and psychological reasons and other things like that, but I don't think it's the end of the world. And TRT can have a lot of benefits, right? I think there are a lot of benefits to testosterone replacement therapy in people who actually need it, which is probably a lot less than the people who think they need it. But it's not to say that you shouldn't get those benefits, but you should be aware of potential consequences, right? Dr. Thomas O'Connor is a good resource for that. Vigorous Steve, his channel is a good resource for that. There are a lot of resources out there nowadays for these sort of things, and it's something that you should, obviously go through an actual doctor. I'd be wary of these like online sources of just being able to get it. And even some of the online doctors there's like almost no vetting process. So something to be aware of, but this poll, like I said, was very surprising to me. So know what you're getting into. And to be clear, if you do take exogenous hormones, exogenous testosterone, you will almost certainly be decreasing your fertility. And whether that means that you will become completely infertile and you will have a lot of issues with that down the road, or you will just lower your ability, that is going to be an individual thing, and there's really no way to know. But that's one other thing I would say. If you are going to get started with something like that, get an echocardiogram to start, get a sperm count to start, right? Get a semen analysis done. Things like that are important. This is not something that you want to ignore. And just, again, I mean, obviously on Instagram, some people are just going to answer even if they have no idea. That's fine. But I was more concerned when I saw people who are, giving out advice and coaches like that. So I want to put this in here, guys. So if you have any questions about it, post down below. Make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe to the channel for more, and I will see you guys next time.